Good afternoon everyone, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat and welcome to another episode of Fil-Am in Focus, a program by the Asian Community Development Council or ACDC wherein we discuss issues, successes and opportunities affecting Filipino Americans. Ako po si Edelweiss Rivera Solano. Ang episode po natin ngayon ay very special kasi we are joined by the National Partnership for New Americans or NPNA, the Naturalized and Ready to Vote Tour, which highlights the importance of new American voters, their concerns and their impacts on the upcoming elections. And kanina lang umaga, we just finished the press conference with leaders from across local organizations, and now we're having a roundtable discussion with newly naturalized citizens. So I'll let Nicole Melacu, their Executive Director of New Partnership for New Americans, to introduce herself and also moderate the discussion, and afterwards I'll let the guests, each one of them, introduce themselves. So welcome to Fil-Am in Focus, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Weiss, and hello to everyone tuning in this afternoon for this important voter conversation with naturalized voters from Nevada. I'm Nicole Melacu, Executive Director of the National Partnership for New Americans. We're a coalition of 75 immigrant-led and refugee-led coalitions across the country working to promote immigrant inclusion. And one of the main areas that we occupy is really promoting an idea of democracy by helping those who are eligible to naturalize become citizens and exercise their important voice in every election. We believe that we should make it easier for people to access this process, and so we work with our partners, including many here in Nevada, to remove barriers to naturalization. So how did we get here? I think it's important for us to kind of give a little texture to this conversation. So in 2015, a record number of people became U.S. citizens. That was right on the heels of an incredibly important election. And from 2015 to 2020, we saw almost 5 million immigrants take that important step of becoming a citizen for the first time. And so over the last several years, that demographic has been growing, which is why we have a whole campaign called Naturalized and Ready to Vote. So as of 2020, we saw that for the first time in the nation's history, 1 in 10 voters was a naturalized voter, doubling this immigrant electorate since it's been recorded, and that is according to Pew Research Center. So over the last 6 years, this number has increasingly begun to grow, and here in Nevada has as well. So we launched our national campaign, our tour across the country to make sure that naturalized citizens get out to vote this year. There are 3.5 million folks who have naturalized over the last almost 4 years, and they're likely to vote in their first presidential election. So we know that this voting bloc is eager to participate in the elections. We know that we have some sense that this community cares about the same things as their U.S.-born counterparts. And as we talked about earlier in our tour stop here with many of our partners in Nevada, including ACDC, Plan, and SEIU, we know that your voice is critically important. So we're gathered here today with a group of naturalized voters from Nevada representing the diverse community of the state. And so with this tour, we're going across the country to hear voter attitudes and issues that matter to you, starting here in Las Vegas, and we'll be heading to Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania, and Miami in just a few weeks. So we know this election is critically important. I want to turn it to all of you to learn a little bit about all of you and hear what's most important for you this election. So first, would you start off and give us an introduction of your name and why you're here today, and a little bit about you. So I'll start with you. Okay, and you can tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself.
My name is Tai. I'm Vietnamese. I came here in Vegas on 2018. I just get naturalized my citizen, and I believe that I'm Asian, so I believe that after I get naturalized, I can vote for what we really need for our community, for especially my community, the Vietnamese community. That's the reason I come here.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me. I'm Hyra. My name is full name is Hyra Alenton. I moved to the United States in 2016. I got my naturalization in 2022. So I will be voting for the first time this year, this November, I believe, right? And one of the reasons why I'm here today is to speak up for our healthcare community within the Filipino Americans and the Asian community. Majority, probably almost every single people of color and the Americans itself who don't have access to healthcare. So I'm here.
Thank you.
Excuse me. My name is King Mercado. I came here about 10 years ago, and I became a citizen this past February. Same with my whole family too. The only reason why I came here is because I think a lot of people, like, they want to talk about politics, right? But they don't want to do anything about politics. Like, they keep talking about it, watching about it, but the only way we make a difference is if we actually get involved in it.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jarleni Roat Dugan. I am an immigrant from Colombia. I moved to the United States in 2004. I became a naturalized citizen in 2010. I am part of SEIU 1107 and the Secretary Treasurer, and I'm also a registered nurse. So I work at one of the county hospitals, or the only county hospital in Las Vegas. So I'm here to speak up about labor issues, healthcare, access, and safety, because I'm also a mom to an 18-year-old who's gonna be voting for the first time, and a 7-year-old. So that's why I'm here.
So,
Hi, I'm Rudy Zamora. I'm originally from Mexico. I moved to the United States when I was 3 years old, so I grew up here. I've been in Las Vegas for about 30-something years, so I've seen the valley grow. One of the reasons why I'm here is I became a citizen in 2016, right before one of the biggest elections that led us down to downfall. But one of the reasons I'm here is when people are talking about voting, I think one of the areas that we often leave behind is the Latino male. As a father, as an active community member in the Latino community, it's a demographic that oftentimes gets forgotten, and sometimes I don't want to say we get pushed to the side, but people don't really target us, or if they do target us, it's because they think it's economic issues that are driving us. And the reality is, as a father, gun violence, climate, education, and different things drive me to going to the polls, and not just an economic issue. So it's more than just a single issue.
thank you so much. It's wonderful to hear all of you and how important it will be for you to vote this year. This is a critical election, once again, that really decides the future of the country. And Weiss, of course, last but not least, I mean, you recently became a naturalized citizen, so we can't forget that. You talked about it earlier this morning. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yes, so I'm Vi Solano. I oversee the Family Services Department at the Asian Community Development Council. So I'm born and raised in the Philippines, moved here in 2013. So I'm here, because part of my work is to help our community naturalized. So we complete their applications for free, prepare them for mock interviews, and provide the language support that our community needs, because a lot of our community have limited English proficiency. So we help in that area. So I'd like to be able to encourage the those who are eligible permanent residents to get naturalized, because when you get naturalized, then you become a U.S. citizen, and then you'll be able to get out to vote.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get to it. I think, King, you kicked us off nicely with you're likely to vote in November and why. Tell me, from the essential being of who you are, what is going to motivate you to the polls this November and why?
I think because a lot of immigrants, when we come here, all we know is like become a citizen, like that's the main goal for a lot of us, right? So, but like growing up here, I've seen like a lot of changes throughout my life. Like, if I want something big happening, like for my family, like healthcare is so important, especially right at this time. Like, I feel like if we want change to happen, like we have to do the change too. I think change happens within us, not like the people around us, but it starts with us.
Thank you. And Hyra, you also named health as a primary concern. So a lot of folks want to know what's top of mind for naturalized voters. Tell me more about what you're thinking, what you'll be thinking about as you head to the polls this November.
As I head to the polls this November, majority of my patients struggle with accessing to healthcare, especially after COVID, when the need for mental health crisis was in a lot more, it's a lot more in demand, and our insurance companies nowadays make it a lot harder to access mental health care. So one of the things that that motivates me to go in and vote is to make sure that if I'm voting for a person, who it may be, is to make sure that it's for the better good of my community, especially within the healthcare, within the children, within everybody that deals with all this stuff like that. So pretty much my biggest motivator, highly likely, is to make sure that other than me, myself, who gets to vote, is also to vote for the people who can't vote. To make sure that, hey, this is the information that majority of us agree on, and if I agree with it, then that's going to be the person that I'll be voting for.
Ty, do you have, the thing that's going to motivate you to the polls most? What is that thing, that one thing that's super important to you?
I just I want to vote for the chromatic I'm sorry. My English not my native language. Sometimes two language run to my head. I just want to vote for the majority of the Asian community, because right now I believe the Asian community is the biggest population in Las Vegas. So I'm not the biggest, but they roll very fast. So and sometimes they are afraid to raise their voice, and they are discriminated. They get racism, the Asian, and so that's why we feel uncomfortable. We live within the community. So I just come over to vote for the people who can raise the Asian voice. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to switch over to maybe Latinx, Latine voters. What's going to be important for you in this upcoming election? I'll start with you, Yarlene.
Okay, so it's really hard to pick just one topic.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, immigration is a big issue. The certain party always picks on immigrants and kind of makes us look bad to scare people that are voting. And I'm here to say that not all immigrants are criminals or rapists or are coming to smuggle drugs. So like me and like Rudy and many of us here come to find a better life. We are professionals. We are small business owners. We work taking care of the community, work in healthcare. We're first line healthcare workers that were there in the front lines when COVID happened. Most of the Latinos working, at least here in Nevada, are people that work in our supermarkets. They work building houses. They're in the trades, in labor. So they're farmers. So all essential people. And we need a path to citizenship for all of these people. They need a voice. They need to be able to vote legally, as the other party says. And that's one of the biggest issues. We need a path to citizenship. Also, something that's under attack and is very dear to my heart because of my job as a labor and delivery nurse is reproductive rights and women's rights to choose whatever they decide.
Thank you. We saw in our national poll that's released today that healthcare and reproductive rights are important, and climate's important to our communities as well as the economy and inflation. Rudy, how about you? If you were headed to the polls, when you're headed to the polls, what will be the most important thing for you?
So I think as a parent, as a Latino, I can't talk about one particular issue because it's all a domino effect. They all intertwine with one and another. We can't talk about gun violence, which we just saw a horrible incident this last week in Atlanta. We can't talk about gun violence without not talking mental health, and then access to health care. We can't talk about climate without talking about the economic development. So it's a variety of issues that are going to drive me to the poll. But I think ultimately it's my community and using my voice to uplift the voices of others that cannot vote. And I have a 9-year-old at home who suffers from asthma. So ensuring that he has a future, because we have to think 7 generations ahead of ours. It's not just it ends with me or it ends with the generation behind me. We have to think longevity. So it's going to be definitely my son and uplifting the voices of those that can go to the poll and cast a vote.
Weiss, you're voting for the first time in the presidential election.
Yes.
What are you going to be thinking about?
Well, I'm mainly gonna be thinking about my community because, like, especially the Filipinos who are in the service industries, they are so focused on just earning for their families. They're putting food on the table, working 2 jobs. Who, yes, they may be able to vote, but then they're just making money. But then I'll be their voice to be able to vote for who are, and also those who are not able to vote at the same time. Because when I also started, I got inspired by those who are able to vote themselves and encourage people who are able to vote. So yes, I'll be thinking about representing my community and those who are not eligible to vote yet, and also be fighting for healthcare access, making pathway to citizenship easier, language access.
Thank you. The next question is really about the way the candidates are talking about immigrants and refugees this cycle. We know there's both candidates are really adding immigration. Tomorrow is the presidential debate, as all of you know. If people were listening to you today within either of those candidates, how do you want them to talk about our immigrant communities? I know they often talk about the border, but here in Nevada, this is a vibrant and beautiful community with new Americans from all over the world who help support the economy and healthcare. How do you want to be talked about by folks instead of what we're hearing now? And how would you characterize that rhetoric right now? What impact does it have on your life? So this is you personally, right? You all are here in your personal capacities. And we, of course, want to just hear from the ground people's voice and elevate that voice. So I'll start with you, Dai. How do you want people to talk about your Vietnamese community in this election?
I'm sorry.
How do you want the presidential candidates to talk about immigrants in this election?
It's about immigrants. Actually, and the immigrants.
Yeah.
They talk a lot of they discuss a lot about immigrants. But personally, I believe the immigrants like us. The citizen, the U.S. Citizen, they look at the immigrants or the people who cross the border from Mexico a lot. Now they grow a lot, but and because the population grows so fast, then crime committed from them. Maybe this the reason they hate immigrants. But actually, I think the immigrant is not the reason lead to crime. I mean, because of course when they starving, they will commit crime and steal something from the community to live. But personally, I believe the immigrants they really appreciate when you help them, when you give them an opportunity to work to contribute to the community, and they work really hard. They were efficient.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's interesting that there are 46 million foreign-born across the country, right? And so when we hear about the foreign-born, we're not thinking of the broad of diversity of folks that call the United States home, that it's just this sort of dog whistle for immigrant communities. King, I'm just going to see what your thought is. How are you seeing the rhetoric around immigrants, immigration, and what would you like how do you want to be talked about for your community in this year's election?
I think in the Filipino community, I think a lot of us, I think most of us don't get the recognition we deserve, right? Like when you get sick, you go to a hospital, right? The majority of the workers there are Filipinos, but Filipinos never get talked about. I think a lot of us deserve the recognition for all the hard work, not just us, Latinos as well. Like if you go to a hospital, what you see mostly Latino nurses, Filipino nurses, right? So I feel like we deserve the recognition for sure.
Hyra?
It was mentioned earlier that each topic piggyback off of each other. It makes a domino effect, snowball effect, butterfly effect, and everything. So when it comes to as immigrants and how I want to be seen, one of the things that as an immigrant, as a Filipino, and as a Filipino American, one of the things that I always want to say is that we come here for better opportunities. We come here because we come here to make our lives better. But other people see it in the other way of the story, where we're here to access and maximize all the benefits that we could get. But that majority of us actually don't do that. But in my end, I think as an immigrant, what I want to see in this upcoming season of what's going to happen soon is to make sure that I myself, who have the privilege to vote, will be able to recognize and voice out the needs of my people, and not just the Filipinos, but that includes all the people of color that is in need of something in these upcoming, let's say, term for whoever is going to be the next one, right? So hopefully as immigrants, we will have more inclusivity, more diversity in this next season of things that will happen.
Darlene, how do you
Yes.
want the candidates to talk about our communities and what's troubling about the way that they are currently talking about our communities?
Yes, I think the most important thing that we should be asking all the candidates, not just the presidential, but our local candidates, is to speak about immigrants as we are. We're all human beings, and we need to be talked about with respect and dignity. And they need to recognize what we bring to the table, which at the end of the day, the country is running by immigrants, because we do all the hard work. We take care of people in hospitals. We work in the shops, in the supermarkets, in the farms. We run the country, and that is not being recognized.
Thank you. Rudy?
I just want to echo what everyone has said, but I think when it comes to the topic of immigration, I think people that are criminalized are the people that look like us. We're not talking about immigration of Europeans coming into the country. When candidates are talking about immigration specifically, they're targeting and talking about people that look like us around this conversation, and they're not talking about people that are overstaying their visas or entering without inspection from the northern border or from Europe. It's always people that look like us or people that come from countries that don't look like them. So I want to make sure that when we're talking immigration, or when they're talking about immigration, they add that human aspect, and they realize that immigration is not just from the southern border or from countries in the Philippines or in Asia. It's an issue that's across the world, and we're all coming here for a better future, like it was mentioned. But we need to ensure that they're talking about all immigrants, not just immigrants that don't look like them.
Weiss?
When the candidates are talking about immigrants, I would want them to know that we are contributors. We help build a vibrant and a growing economy of the U.S. So, because we have a large percentage of AAPI-owned businesses. We have people in the healthcare who has been, during the pandemic, was the backbone of the medical industry. So yes, we are contributors, and we want to see change and advocate for policies that will help our communities, whether it is language access, pathway to citizenship, and also immigration.
Thank you. I think for us in PNA, the rhetoric is extremely dangerous and it's reckless for communities that have fought to build trust with community for the last 4 years, where people are trying to restore trust with immigrant communities. I think the rhetoric is dangerous, quite frankly. And so with that message in mind, if you could speak to somebody who's also a naturalized voter like you, or even a first-time voter like one of your kiddos that's going to be voting for the first time, and young people in our lives who will be voting soon, what will you tell them today that's at stake for this year's election? So I'll start with you, Yareli. And you tell me, what's your message to people who can vote in this year's presidential? What's at stake for our communities?
This year is the most important. You need to come out, vote, make your voice heard, and represent your community, your family, and yourself. It's very important to go out and exercise. It's not just a right, it's a responsibility to go out and vote.
Let's bounce to you.
I mean, the voting is not just a right, it's a privilege. And as a person that has the privilege of casting the vote, not only for myself, but for many in my family that don't have that opportunity, I encourage everyone to go out and vote. I know we say this is the most important election time in our lifetime, but there's a lot at stake this time around. We have reproductive rights, we have access to education, we have a lot of things that are gonna hurt our families. And to those that are not just naturalized citizens, but those that normally say my vote's not gonna make a difference, this is not the time for you to sit down and say, I'm not gonna make a difference. We need every single person. We need anyone from naturalized citizens to young 18-year-olds that are just registering, or even, I'm going to call my generation out, the millennials that are apathetic and say nothing is going to happen because none of the candidates are doing anything for me. Guess what? One of them is going to do something for you, and so is the other one. One is just going to come after us in a negative way, and the other one might just leave us there, but one is safer for our communities than the other. So I'm gonna say don't stay home. Go out and vote. Access to the polls in Nevada is so much easy. You can vote by mail. You can register the same day if you have to. Just don't sit this one out for the future of our families.
King?
I agree with Rudy. Like a lot of us people that just became citizens, we act like, oh, my voice or nothing's gonna change. But if you think about it, a lot of people that vote are born and raised in America. But if all of us vote, people that are immigrants that vote, we will for sure make a difference in this country, and for everyone else, and for the next future ahead of us too.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If you are unsure of voting, I don't know where to look. One of the things that I want to say is your vote does matter. You worked hard to reach where you're at, that you can vote now. And if it's your first time voting, just like what Rudy and everybody else said, it will matter. One will affect you or your family or your taxes or whatever you think of more than the other. And as a person who can vote and as a person who's a first time voter, one of the things that a big piece of advice is that a lot of us think about ourselves, but what we also forget that once we think about ourselves when we make that vote, is that turns into a snowball. So in the field of mental health and psychology, we teach that baby steps is still progress. It's the same exact thing as this. One vote, the more people vote for one side or the other, will make a difference. So a progress is a progress, a step is a step. So get out there, go vote, make a difference for yourself, for your family, for your children, for the schools, and for all the things that we hear about in this world now.
Dai?
I believe voting is important. I don't really care if the person I vote for is win the nomination or not. If in case they don't win the my vote, which means that I'm aware that my interest is not committed. So in the future, I will gather more people believe that the interest is need to get done. That's why voting is important. And no matter what the person you vote for is win or loss, win or lose. If they win, it's good for your interest. But if they lose, which means that you need to work harder to gather more people for the voting in the future that get your interest done in the future.
And Weiss, I would love for you to wrap us up. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would love for you to wrap us up. So what message do you have for people who are going to be voting this first time? And what do you want them to do or to take away from this conversation as you wrap us up?
Yes, so thank you, Nicole. I like what Hyra said, like take that one step. So to my fellow naturalized citizen and new American voters, let's vote. Vote for your candidate who will reflect your values and who will provide the positive outcome to the interest of your community. And if you are also eligible permanent resident, apply for citizenship. Naturalize now. So there are many organizations like ACTC who can help you apply for naturalization easily and can access, and many other organizations who can provide you free resources. So again, if you are able to vote, let's all be part of the change. And again, take that step and naturalize now. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for everyone again for participating in this discussion. For our viewers and those who are listening and watching Fil-Am in Focus, a program by the Asian Community Development Council. Ako po si Ado Vaisolano at maraming salamat po for joining us today. Abangan po ang aming susunod na episode. Hanggat sa muli.